back on this Wednesday talking rock with you here on Trunk Nation. Thanks for being here. We'll get to some of your phone calls here in a little bit, but first we are going to talk to the maestro. Welcoming back to the show. It's always great to visit with my old friend Yngwie Malmsteen, who has a new live record coming out on April 25th called Tokyo Live. Yngwie, how are you, buddy?
Hey, what's up, pal? What's going on?
I'm good, man. I was telling the audience before you came on, I was reminding them of a story on my old TV show. We used to have guitar players play up in the audience, and you were the guy that inspired that whole thing, because that first season when you came to New York and did that show, which, believe it or not, is like, 17 years ago, 16 years ago. And do you remember you came in with your guitar and I was like, no, Yngwie, it's a talk show. We don't, because the show hadn't aired yet. We were like, it's a talk show. You know, we don't have a way for you to play. And you're like, well, I bought the guitar anyway. And then we went out and got that amp and you sat next to me and played a little bit. And that's where that whole idea we ended up taking, where we actually had people play every show. But do you remember that? Do you remember coming in that day?
Of course I remember that. I remember that was yesterday. It's great. I mean, the whole show was so great. I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah, we had fun, but I always give you credit for inspiring that idea, because I remember saying to my producer, I'm like, shit, we got Yngwie here with his guitar. We can't not have him play. And they went out and I remember they got you this little amp and they put it next to the chair. And you were like, well, that's not going to work. I was like, well, for TV, that's what we have to use.
Yeah, man. It was cool. It was great.
It was cool. And then after that, a bunch of people, got on board and we started doing that like properly up in the audience. That was a lot of fun, but you definitely inspired that, man. So thank you.
Hey, thank you.
So tell me about this live record, Tokyo Live, coming out April 25th, obviously recorded in Tokyo. 40th anniversary, right? So you've got a cross section of a lot of different material from your catalog here.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that what happened was I did an album called Babel, and we started touring like crazy. We toured for years, basically. And then 24 came around, and someone said, hey, it's 40 years since the first solo album. And I said, okay, well, let's change it to the 40th anniversary tour then. And we went Europe, everywhere. And then once we came to Japan, the promoters there wanted to say, hey, we want to record the show, film it, you know. And I said, basically, well, I have to all the footage and all the sound recording, everything, yeah? He said, oh, yeah, no problem. And I also want to record 2 nights. We recorded Osaka as well, but this is all Tokyo. And so it's kind of funny how it happened that way. It was like a full circle thing. Because when I was in January 1984, I was in Japan, and they said, "Oh, you need a solo deal," So it's full circle, exactly how it happened by coincidence, kind of, Because I wasn't really planning on it, but when it came up, I said, "Oh yeah, it's a good idea. We'll do it for sure."
So Yngwie, I just actually went to Japan for the first time in my life last year. I went over with Sammy Hagar and Joe Satriani as part of their tour. They took me with them. I'd never been there.
Wow.
It was an amazing, amazing, amazing experience, and I loved it, and I hope to go back. I know you've gone many times. The venue you actually did this in, which is called Zepp, it's like a there's several of them throughout Japan, right? It's basically like their House of Blues level venue, maybe 5,000 people, but very good venues, right?
They're extremely good production, extremely good everything. You would call it a club, but it's more like an arena, really. They're really big, And so yeah, I mean, when I first started going there, it was always theaters, but I guess they moved on to these things now. A little more capacity actually in the theaters, But,
okay, well, I've not been in the one you actually did this in, but maybe some of the other ones are smaller, yeah.
Yeah.
So did you so did they have the technology there built in already to record it, and you did video on it, right, as well?
Yeah, this is a full concert film, and recording. So it's going to be a vinyl LP, it's going to be a CD recording, and digital, obviously, and it's going to come out on video as well, the full show. It's like 16 cameras or something, and cranes, and the whole nine yards, everything. Full multi-track recording. When they do things, they do them right over there. They really do, and the lighting and the pyro, and everything's really good, So that was another good reason to do it there, because of they're very, very well organized,
Yeah, and you've got, people can hear this and see it because you've got 2 tracks out from it already with videos. The first was Top Down, Foot Down. Tell me about that track, and that's actually early on in the show. You pretty much open with that, right?
No, that's second or third in the set, but it's a cool, rapid instrumental, and the title is about my favorite thing, cruising around the top down, top down, foot down. But the music is very classical. It's very arpeggios, C sharp minor. It's a cool little thing, good melody. And the second, they call it a single. It's a live recording. Also, it's from the same show. It's called No Rest for the Wicked, which is also an instrumental track. But it's those are 2 little teasers. But it's gonna be a full concert video. And vinyl, you're gonna have to make it into a 6 disc vinyl release or something. It's a long show,
Yeah, no, it is. But but what I've heard of it so far, because I do have it, and I listened to some of it and watched the videos as well. The thing that was really, I love live records. I grew up with the great 70s live records. I mean, I love live records, and I'm glad people still do them. But the thing that struck me about this was the sound. The sound is so, you hear everything, but it's very live. It has that energy and that mix of that crowd in there. Did you mix this record as well?
Yeah. That's one of the things I said to them. I said I want to see, I have the footage and do the audio. So we mixed it in my studio, but it's a live record though. So it's a few little, I like it spontaneous, so it's just the way it is. But it's a good take, it's a good night, And the sound is amazing. They always have great sound in Japanese halls. It's always amazing sound there.
When was the first time you went to Japan, Yngwie? Was it with Alcatraz?
Yeah, 1983 was the first time.
And what do you remember about that first visit? And I imagine over the years you've been there so many times. I know you've built a great following there. But what did you, as a kid from Sweden going there, what was it like for you?
Yeah, I was a kid from Sweden, basically. So all of a sudden, it was like being in the Beatles. It was crazy. I mean, you couldn't go anywhere. It was really nutty. The security is much better now. Now you drive in the venue underneath, and you just get guarded into the venue, so to speak, and you don't really go outside. Back in those days, you had to find your way, and sometimes hotels in the same building. I remember making a wrong turn, walking to soundcheck one time, and I got attacked by a million people. I was only a kid. I didn't understand what was going on, basically. So yeah, but no, what I really noticed first of all was that they were very careful listeners. They really listened to what you were doing, and very meticulous response to everything. And also,
very respectful.
20 years ago, there was a very different culture than it is now. Now, when you go now, it's much more westernized than it was then.
Yeah, I would imagine it would be overwhelming for you because, especially at that time, because again, before you came on the air with me, I was talking to the audience and I was like, for people that are old enough to remember, like me, when you first came on the scene, this guy that none of us had heard of before, and for me, it was the Steeler record. That's when the world that were hard rock fans were introduced to you, but it was, you revolutionized playing. You revolutionized guitar. Everybody was talking about you. Everybody was trying to figure out how to pronounce your name and who you were and where you came from, because you were just dropped into this out of nowhere. So I would imagine it was the same thing in Japan, but knowing how fanatical, now having witnessed it firsthand, how fanatical they are over there for artists and this kind of music, I can't even imagine what it must have been like for you to be a kid, you know, from Sweden, and all of a sudden you just get dropped into Japan and there's pandemonium around you. It had to be surreal.
It was. Like I said, it was like being in the Beatles. It was crazy. It was really nuts, you know. And I guess the things were done back then differently, you know, with security and stuff, you know. It was just, you go to the train stations and all this stuff. It was crazy. The whole thing was nuts.
Yeah, when I was there, and again, you can relate to this, but when I was there, I was traveling with Sammy and Satch, Michael Anthony, Kenny Aronoff. That was the band. And it was amazing because the fans know, like, even they know where you are. They know where you're going. We would get on the bullet train and they would know which train, and they would buy a ticket so they could go on the other side of the turnstile and be near you. It was crazy. It's so you can't describe it to people who haven't been there.
No, it's definitely their own thing, you know, for sure.
Yeah, really, really, really is interesting. So it was cool that you did this there. And, you know, speaking of Alcatraz, which was the first time you went to Japan, I was really happy to see you did Hiroshima Mon Amour in the track listing.
Yeah, I did especially for that show because I want to give them that, you know. I haven't done that one for years before then. So that was definitely put in as a homage to them, you know, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, but then again, if you're chronicling 40 years of playing, I mean, it makes sense to include that band. Have you ever considered maybe doing a little bit of a Steelers song, "Cold Day in Hell" or something like that?
No, you know, it's already almost impossible to put a set list together because I've made so many records, you know. And every night I'm trying to put a set list together, and they print it out, I put it on stage, and I end up playing different set lists anyway, you know. So it's always different. Because you some of the albums, so many songs, you can only, you know, I mean, you don't want to play more than an hour 40 or so, and you can only do so many.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you've got an expansive set list of your own, but I thought it was cool that you put that little nod in there to Alcatraz, especially considering you're celebrating 40 years. It was great hearing you play that again. And you did a couple covers on here too, right? You did "Smoke on the Water," right?
Yeah, I did that on one of my albums. I always like to play that song, so it's fun. I had to put that in there as well.
Yngwie, when you think of the great live albums that you grew up with in Sweden, I mean, I imagine Made in Japan would be one of them, but are there some for you that were really landmark live records when you were a kid growing up that you were a big fan of that really influenced you?
The funny thing is that, you know, out of all the bands that I thought were great, you know, there was always the live album I liked the most, you know. You know, it would have been UFO or Thin Lizzy or Judas Priest or whoever, you know. Their live thing was always the one I liked the best. And not to mention Made in Japan, of course. Made in Europe is good as well. So yeah, I used to think that they were really kind of, it was a different thing about the live album, you know. It's just you get a taste of what the show's like, you know. It's a little different sound and play and feel and all that stuff. I always liked it.
Yeah, it's weird because I did too, and people that are around our age, you know, we can relate to that. And the 70s were absolutely the era of the great double live record and all that. It's odd that as time has gone on, they don't seem to be as important anymore. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because everybody shoots stuff and puts it on YouTube and people look at it like that, but I still get really excited about live records, and I'm glad you're putting this out, but it just seems like it's not, they don't carry the same weight as they did in the 70s. For me, I was the same way. I would buy them it would be a great way to get like a first record from a band, because you got a cross section of all the material, and then you could find out what record those songs were from, and then go get the studio records. And it was a good way to jump in on a band. That's what I did as a kid.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was like a compilation, but it was also done live, so you could really kind of tell how good they really were, you know?
Yeah. You know what I wanted to ask you too, listening to this record, you know, over your career, you've worked with a lot of different singers that have been in and out of the band. You know, obviously going back to Alcatraz, Graham Bonnet, or whether it's, you know, any of the people, whether it's Jolyn Turner, Mark Bolles, Jeff Scott Soto, on and on, all these different guys you've had. You've been the singer. You've been doing all the lead singing for a while now in the band. How is it for you vocally to tackle all these different singers and have to do this stuff live? I would imagine that's a lot on you, given how much you're doing on guitar as well.
Yeah, it is, but it's almost like full circle as well, because that's what I did before I came to the States. You know, that my band whatever thing called Rising Force in Sweden, or Powerhouse, that I had, you know, in the late 70s, and you know, in Sweden, that was me on vocals and drummer and a bass player, basically. Power trios. So but you know, it just feels kind of a natural thing, really. It's been a long time now. It's been since, I don't know, 12 years, something. 13 years? No, 15 years.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, you've been doing it on record and live for a while, and it's amazing how you can cover all that ground. Like I said, because people that know you have seen you live, you're also very animated on stage. I mean, you're always moving and kicking, and you got to play the way you play, and then try to be up there on that microphone. You're carrying a lot on that stage, man. It's impressive.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there a side to you that would ever consider working with the singer again, or that's not something you ever want to do again?
At this moment in time, no. You know, I'm very comfortable with what's going on now. I really enjoy it, and you know, you never know, but no, not right now.
Is there a side of you that would ever be interested in joining a band again?
Again, the same answer, really. I mean, right now, no. But you know, you never know. You never know what could happen.
I mean, I imagine over the years you must have.
I always keep the door open for everything.
Yeah, I always imagine over the years, though, Yngwie, you must have gotten some pretty interesting offers, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, especially when I first started out, you know, when I almost ended up in UFO. You know that story.
I heard about it, but I don't really know the circumstances. When was that? Early 80s?
Well, what happened was I was playing around with Steeler. You know, we were all over the Sunset Strip, and also down the Tube, and we did the in the Valley. What was that called? The Country Club. And then we did some stuff. We did a couple of shows in Frisco, and also we did some stuff in Orange County, whatever. I remember one night we played in Orange County, and Phil Morgan from UFO came there. And he was all, you know, I love that band. It was great. So he was all like, hey, you know, I'm putting UFO back together. You know, I've got to get a great guitar player, whatever this and that. So come to my house tomorrow. I said, oh, yeah, I'll be there. So the next morning, I'm getting a phone call from somebody. I don't know who it was, some rodeo manager or something, from what became Alcatraz. Wasn't called Alcatraz or nothing. And that was the same day as I was going to see Phil. And so they come and pick me up, and they bring me to this rehearsal room. And I started asking these guys, like, so what's your songs like and all that stuff? Well, we don't have songs yet. What's your direction? We don't have direction yet, blah, 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 blah. But you got the gig, they said. You got the gig. I said, well, let me think about it. I got to go see somebody. So I went to Phil Morgan's house, and he was super cool. But he didn't really have his stuff together that much as the other camp did. So I called them from Phil's house and said, okay, I'll do your thing, but a couple of conditions. I write the songs, and we get a new drummer. So we started auditioning drummers, and we had all these drummers, just hundreds of drummers, and really good ones, too. Ended up with the guy from Alice Cooper. But that's how that happened, you know. I mean, that would have been awesome to be in the UFO too, but that would have meant I would have to do a lot of their classics and stuff like that, which is, you know, good, but I was more into the fresh start thing, you know. 1983.
Yeah, no, that was the time when Paul Chapman was out, so that would have been after Paul. Was there ever any interest from, because I think you kind of jammed with Purple once, didn't you? Was there ever any interest in Purple bringing you in?
Yeah, there was there was talk here and there. I was hanging out with Ian Gillan years and years and years when he was actually out of the band for a minute and then back again. And Roger Glover was always a really cool guy. I have a really good picture from Japan, actually, where I'm on stage with it's me, Roger Glover, Ian Pace, and John Lord, because John Lord came on stage that night. It was long after he left. And I was touring with them, I think it's 2009 or whatever. So, yeah, it's always been a good vibe. It's just, I don't know, it didn't happen, you know?
Yeah, no, and the other one I would think would have knocked on your door would have been at some point would have been Ozzy. Was there ever any interest from Ozzy's camp in you?
Again, there was some. So I was so confused. 1982 when I first sent that tape out to the guitar player, I got all these phone calls, and I got a phone call from Kiss. I know that. It was the funniest thing. The guys are, "You're hot," and I'm, what do you mean hot? Gesundheit, you know. Anyway, they said, we really want to try out, but we need to know how tall you are. How tall are you? Are you 6 foot tall? And I didn't know what 6 foot tall was because I was metric in Sweden. I was 1 meter and 92 centimeters, which is 6'3", right? And so they never called back. So I didn't tell them how tall I was. What else? Yeah, I was talking to Dave Roth a lot right at the point when he was putting his thing together.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's always been some interest here and there, but you know.
But that's funny on Kiss, because I've heard that before. The other guitar players that they called it about that time when they were looking for a guitar player, and that was one of the first questions everybody has said they asked was, "How tall are you?" But you didn't know how to do it in feet,
no,
so you couldn't do the conversion.
Knew it in metric, you know. Yeah, and that was in 1982. I tell you, I know that much. And I don't know who was in the band at the time, you know, but I think Ace was out. I don't know.
Yeah, well, Ace was out. They were pretending like Ace was still in, and they put Ace on the cover of the record at the time. But Ace was out, and they were looking for the replacement. And that's the gig. That's the gig that ended up going to Vinnie Vincent. But it was to replace Ace, basically. But I know a number of people they kicked the tires with and talked to around that time, and they all. It was one of the first questions was how tall you were, but that's funny. You couldn't, because you would have fit the height requirement, but you didn't know how to tell them. That's hysterical.
Exactly.
Oh funny. Man. Yeah. And hey, you know, I just was on a cruise last week and I saw Nuno Betancourt, and I know you guys with Vi and Nuno and Zach, you did that Generation Axe. For people that don't know, you should check that out. It's incredible. Do you think you'll do more of that at some point?
Sure. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do G3, whatever. I'll do all of it.
Did you enjoy doing that, going out with all those guys and playing guitar with them?
It was definitely a learning curve because of the time constraints and stuff like this. But it ended up being a great thing. We did 6 or 7 tours. I really enjoyed it. I actually did.
I mean, everybody, what was so cool about that to me was that Tosin Abasi was on it, yourself, Nuno, Zach, and Steve Vai. All great players, but all different kinds of players. Did you, when you were out there doing that, did you get a chance to, I mean, I know you guys all crossed over with each other a little bit as well, but was it, for you, were you surprised by some of the players? Like some of those people, did you find out some things about them that you weren't aware of in terms of the type of guitar players they were? Was it eye-opening to you?
Yes and no, because I kind of knew them all before, you know. I didn't know Tosin, and he was definitely a different style, and it was very cool, very different style. I really enjoyed that one. It was good. They were all good. They're good. I liked it, just like you said, everyone was very different, you know, which is the great part of that. And then when we play together, it really kind of, I don't pity, I wouldn't want to be the guy mixing the front of house with 5 guitar players.
I remember Nuno
be a
saying
hard
to
thing
me, Nuno said to me, it would be great if we all got paid by the note.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Well, he says there's a lot of notes up here, but I think you would have won that. You would have been paid the most money still at the end of the day if that was the way it got paid.
Yeah, that's funny.
But I'll tell you what, Yngwie, the record's great, man. I'm loving what I'm hearing from it. Tokyo Live, 40th anniversary. It's out on April 25th. So you're saying there's going to be vinyl, there's going to be CD, there's going to be the video portion. Will it be maybe a Blu-ray? Are you going to put everything in one package?
I don't know if they're going to do the whole thing in a box or separate or whatever. I think it's separate products. I'm not 100% sure.
And what do you have coming up? What do you have coming up as far as live shows for the year? You're going to go out again this year?
Yeah, I'm actually in the studio right now working on some new stuff. But in June we're going to South America, Central America. In July we're doing Europe, and then I think August, September we're going to do China and parts of Asia. So it keeps on going.
And anything in America yet, or no?
I haven't seen anything yet, but I'm sure that's going to happen too.
All right, cool. And the last thing I wanted to ask you, speaking of guitar players, today is the 43rd anniversary of the death of Randy Rhoads. Did Randy make a mark on you as a player, Yngwie? Did he resonate with you much?
Well, I mean, it was when I actually did hear him, I was already kind of like set in my ways, but he was definitely one of the greats, no doubt about it. He was a very, very good guitar player and a great songwriter. Those riffs are amazing in those first two albums. Great riffs.
And you guys both shared something in common too, because the classical influence, right? You guys you both have that heavy classical influence in your playing. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sure that it made it's amazing with such a short period of time and such a small body of work, the mark that guy made. And I often wonder 43 years later, if he was still alive, what he'd be doing now, but it's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Oh, and one other thing, Yngwie, forgot to ask you about this. You put out not too long ago your own line of vitamins. Tell me about that.
That's correct. Well, in order for you to be in good health, you need to take supplements. And I've always done that. And so the reason I put my line out is because I want other people to do it too. And it really works. I highly recommend it.
Where can
energy, gives you health. It's just great.
Is it called? They're called Rising Force, right?
They're called Malmsteen's Force.
Malmsteen's Force. Where can you get them?
Amazon. My website, YngwieMalmsteen.com.
And is it doing well for you?
Yes, absolutely. It's great.
I mean, so many musicians are putting out lines of their own liquor or beer or weed. So I thought it was health conscious, nice move for you to go that route instead of putting out something branded that pollutes your body. You're trying to put out something that'll help it.
Well, because that's what I do. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. So, I don't believe in it. Listen, if you want to do that, go ahead. Be my guest. But I prefer not to do it. And also I think it's great, to let people know that take your vitamins and it really works.
Does it allow you, if you take the vitamins, will it help people be able to play something like Top Down, Foot Down?
Absolutely.
Gets your fingers moving faster?
For sure. What?
It'll get your fingers moving faster, right? You could play the arpeggios like you do.
Everything will be working better. Everything will be working better.
Listen, man, it's always good to talk to you. Congrats on this live record. Again, you can pre-order it now. April 25th is the release date. Tokyo Live 40th anniversary. Stuff from Yngwie's entire catalog, even a little bit of an Alcatraz song in there too, which I thought was really, really cool. Hey, man, good to talk to you, and hopefully I'll see you somewhere soon.
Thank you, Eddie. Thank you, my brother. I'll see you soon, okay?
All right, take care. Best to the family, man.
Yes. Bye-bye. See ya.
Bye-bye. There he goes, the maestro, Yngwie Malmsteen. Tokyo Live out on April 25th. That is a guy that I don't know if a band could contain him. I mean, there's a reason he's been a solo artist for pretty much his entire career at this point. Because but it would be interesting. Like, you don't see him pop up in like these supergroup settings. You don't see him, all these assembled bands, they're a dime a dozen. We get a different one every week almost. It's just going to be like thrown out. Nothing's going to happen. They're never going to play live, whatever. He doesn't get plugged in, stuff like that. He doesn't do stuff like that. Interesting to hear that bands like Kiss and UFO and Deep Purple even have kind of kicked the tires with him about possibly joining, and for whatever reason it didn't happen. But it is interesting when you think about it. If you were to assemble like a total supergroup, like a band that was really going to go for it, like, and he was in the guitar spot, how that would go. Would it implode immediately? Or could it really be something like really cool? I mean, it would just, you put a supergroup together with people of that caliber like that, it could go either way. It could hold together and it could be unbelievably special, or it could implode before it got off the launch pad because everybody's demand for attention, egos, etc. Really would be interesting. I think it would be cool too, and I know it doesn't sound like, he says never say never, but I think it would be cool if he got, went back and worked with a great singer, whether it be somebody like Jeff Scott Soto or even Joe Lynn. I mean, that album he made with Joe Lynn is probably the most melodic record he made. I don't think Yngwie, he's made a nice career doing what he's doing. I think for him, this is probably the best thing to keep it lean and mean. It's him, a bass player, a keyboard player, a drummer, and he's running the whole thing. And it's probably, there's some people that are wired to be band people and mesh with bands, and some people that just got to be their own thing. And he's very much his own thing, it seems. All right, my thanks to Yngwie for joining us. With that, we will take a break, and we will go to you next for the rest of the hour on the phones. Guns N' Roses needs a drummer. Who should it be? Who's it going to be? Who knows? We'll see. I'm hearing things, but we'll maybe dive into that a little bit more.